There was a specific afternoon, and I remember it clearly, when I was sitting in my office in Omaha, reading the financial statements of an ordinary American family. Not a company, a family. A real couple, two incomes, decent jobs, nothing extraordinary but nothing catastrophic either. And when I finished reading, I sat back in my chair and I felt something I did not expect. Not pity, not judgment, sadness. Because on paper, that family had everything they needed to build real wealth. They had income, they had time, they even had basic knowledge. What they did not have was the one thing that no school ever teaches you and no paycheck ever gives you. And that afternoon I understood, at a level I had never quite articulated before, why most people will go through their entire lives working hard, doing everything society tells them to do, and still die without financial freedom. Today I want to tell you exactly what I figured out that day. Most people believe that being rich is about income. They think if they could just earn more, everything would change. Get the promotion, land the better job, grow the business, and wealth will follow naturally. But here is the truth that took me decades of watching people up close to fully understand. Income is not wealth. Income is just water running through your hands. Wealth is the bucket you build to catch it. And the reason most people will never be rich has almost nothing to do with how much water is running, and almost everything to do with the fact that they never built a bucket. They are standing in a river, water pouring over their fingers every month, and they wonder why they are still thirsty. I have known people making $200,000 a year who were one missed paycheck away from disaster. I have known people making $40,000 a year who quietly, slowly, without ever making headlines, built enough wealth to walk away from work in their 50s and never go back. The difference was not talent. It was not luck. It was not even education, because Lord knows I have met plenty of educated broke people in my life. The difference was a single habit that separated every wealthy person I have ever known from every person who struggled their entire life. The wealthy person spent less than they earned and invested the difference every single month, without exception, without negotiation, without waiting until they felt ready, or until the timing was better, or until the market was right. They just did it, over and over, for years, while everyone around them was spending. Now here is the uncomfortable part. The reason most people never build that habit is not weakness. It is something much more deeply human than that. We are surrounded, every single day of our lives, by a machine that is specifically designed, with billions of dollars of research and psychology behind it, to convince us to spend money we have not yet earned on things we do not actually need, to impress people we do not even particularly like. I am not being dramatic. That is the literal function of modern marketing. And it works. It works extraordinarily well. When you see your neighbor drive up in a new car, something fires in your brain that has nothing to do with logic and everything to do with status and fear. When you scroll through photographs of people on vacation, wearing things, eating at restaurants, living what looks like a better version of your life, something in you says, I should have that too. That feeling is not a character flaw, it is biology. But acting on it every single time, without question, without discipline, is financial suicide. Charlie Munger, my closest partner and the sharpest mind I have ever known, used to say something that always stayed with me. He would say, show me the incentive and I will show you the outcome. Think about that in the context of wealth building. Every incentive in the modern world pushes you toward spending. The stores want you to spend. The banks want you to borrow and spend. The advertisers want you to feel incomplete until you spend. Social media wants you to perform a lifestyle that requires you to spend. Even your friends and family, without meaning any harm, will pressure you to spend at dinners, weddings, trips, celebrations, and all the normal rhythms of social life. There is almost no incentive in the external world pointing you toward building wealth quietly. That means the drive to build has to come entirely from inside you. And that is precisely why most people never do it. Because when every force around you is pointing one direction, it takes an unusual person to walk the other way. I want to tell you what that couple's financial statement looked like, the one I was reading that afternoon. Their income was solid. Their biggest problem was not a single catastrophic expense. It was 1,000 small ones, subscriptions they forgot they had, meals out that added up to more than a car payment every month, a car payment that was too high for their income level, credit card interest that was silently draining hundreds of dollars every month, as a penalty for last year's impulse decisions. An upgraded phone every 2 years because the old one still worked perfectly fine, but did not feel new anymore. None of these were disasters by themselves. Together they were a slow leak in the bottom of the bucket, and that slow leak was draining every drop of potential wealth before it ever had the chance to compound. I call this the leak trap. Not one big hole, 100 tiny ones. The wealthy people I have known personally, and I have known many, share a trait that always strikes people as strange when they first observe it. They are shockingly unbothered by what other people think of their money choices. I drive the same car for years. I live in the same house I have lived in since 1958. I do not own a yacht. I do not own a private island. And for a long time, people looked at my lifestyle and thought there was something wrong with me. What they did not understand is that every dollar I did not spend on things that did not matter to me was a dollar that went to work and never stopped working. I was not depriving myself. I was making a trade. I was trading the appearance of wealth for the reality of it. And the older I got, the more obvious it became that almost everyone around me was making the opposite trade. They were sacrificing the reality of wealth to maintain the appearance of it. Bigger houses than they needed, cars they could not comfortably afford, vacations charged to cards they would spend the next year paying interest on, and they looked prosperous. They really did, right up until the moment they did not. Here is the simplest way I know to explain the difference between the people who build wealth and the people who never do. Rich people buy assets. Everyone else buys things. An asset is something that grows, produces income or both while you sleep. A stock. A piece of real estate that generates rent, a business, even a simple index fund sitting quietly in an account somewhere, compounding year after year. These are things that get up and go to work the moment you stop working. Things are the opposite. A new car, the moment it leaves the lot, starts losing value and never stops. A designer item, a gadget, a luxury upgrade of any kind. These are the places wealth goes to disappear. I am not saying never enjoy your life. I enjoy mine enormously. I am saying understand what category every purchase falls into, and then be brutally honest about how much of your income is going to assets versus things. Because that ratio, over time, is the entire story of whether you end up free or whether you end up working forever. The day I realized most people will never be rich was not depressing once I sat with it long enough. Because the other side of that realization is that it is not inevitable. It is a choice. Most people make the choice unconsciously, by default, by simply doing what the world around them makes easiest. But it is still a choice, and it can still be changed. Not tomorrow, not when the circumstances are better. Today, right now, with whatever you have. So before you close this video, I want you to do one honest thing. Add up how much you spent last month. Then look at how much of that went toward things that will be worth nothing in 5 years. Then look at how much went toward assets, toward things that are growing quietly in the background, working while you sleep. If that second number is small or zero, you have just found the leak in your bucket. Fixing it does not require a dramatic life change. It requires a decision, followed by another decision, followed by another, repeated until it becomes the default. That is all wealth building ever is. Small decisions made consistently over a long time. The people who do that will be free. The people who do not will keep working and wondering what went wrong. I have watched both kinds of people my entire life, and the only difference I have ever found is that one kind decided and the other kind meant to. Do not just mean to. That is all.